Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome to Bringers of the Light Sundays. Welcome. It is February 4th when I'm recording this. Sunday, February 4th, the first Sunday in February 2024. And there is all sorts of Samhain and Halloween vibes going on right now, which is very interesting. For February in the Northern Hemisphere has nothing to do with those times of the year. So, right, it's supposed to be all about early spring and snowdrops and buds on the trees and all of that. So before we go any further, no matter where you are catching us from, be it the podcast on all of our major podcast providers, I don't even know if I can list them all, but iHeartRadio, Audible, Google, Apple, I don't know, we're all over the place. I want to thank you for joining me. Spotify, that's more like our host. Spotify, thank you. If you're listening to us on YouTube podcast or on my YouTube channel, TLC for the Soul, thank you so much for joining us here as I wrap us all in love light and light love, inviting in the guides who overlight this show. Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, the Pleiadians, Archangel Chamuel to play with us here. So I thought we would do something just slightly different today. I do my little housekeeping items here, so I have them. Make sure I get all of those out there for you all. But this month, the theme, and I think we talked about this in the energy hangout that I recorded about a week ago. The theme of the month is going to be, I'll always watch over you. And we had a song called Fairy Tale by the band Shaman. And we did our EBOOKS drum circle for you. A very short, fun just drum circle. I had a lot of fun making that. I just did like a bunch of different little recordings. It sounded like a room, like more people involved. And so you could just get your drum or your rattle, or anytime you want to just like let loose a little bit. I think it's only like 10 minutes long, and you can just sing along with me or drum along or rattle along with me in that show. But what I wanted to do is, and then I also uploaded the chapters 6 through 10 of Bringers of the Light series, the Rosalie and Calvin and the Rose of San Juan Capistrano. So you can catch up on what's going on with them. So now we have chapters 1 through 10 out there as an audiobook. I've on Spotify created a playlist for it, and on the YouTube channel there's a playlist for it. On the other providers you might have to hunt a little bit. It's not too far down if you're scrolling the podcast. And some of these podcast providers, I think you can search within the podcast, and then you could just type in like audiobook or Rose of San Juan Capistrano. So we're going to come back to Rosalie and Calvin next Sunday. Or you can catch up with their story, like I said, in the audiobook. And today we are going to do the February storytelling that goes under the theme of the month, I'll always watch over you. There is a little art piece for this somewhere, and at some point here this month, I'm getting ready to switch my merch from Redbubble over to another place that I feel like is just a little bit more high vibey, so that's still to come. And then I'll start putting these little art pieces and things in there, if that's something you're interested in, like art prints, or I don't know what else they have, art prints and stickers and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff, postcards. The other quick thing before I get into the storytelling this month is it's not necessarily a change, just more definition around what's going on in our Patreon groups. So we have two tiers in Patreon. One is the Bringers of the Light, and the other one is the Inner Sanctum. This month, for February, under the same theme of I'll always watch over you. Under the Bringers of the Light tier, we are going to do something in what I'm calling the Book Nook. I've had the Book Nook around for a while and I've never really done anything with it. But I did say that the Bringers of the Light tier was also going to be kind of a Bringers of the Light fandom. So we're going to bring in this story that I'm getting ready to read, this storytelling, and we're going to break it down a little bit, maybe do a little bit of a character deep dive, maybe better understand who these people are, what these themes represent, and we'll be doing that as a YouTube. I'm not going to do so much live. We had a problem in the Inner Sanctum with our live streams getting deleted from YouTube because I think Spirit wanted me to take another look at how I'm presenting the material to make it, one, easier for me, and two, more accessible for you all. So from now on, instead of like just live streams, I'm going to be creating YouTube premieres that are just linked just for our group. They're not out there for the general public. They're unlisted, and only the link is only in the Patreon. But we'll be doing a YouTube premiere, and then we can text chat in the premiere about what's going on. So we'll be live together. We just won't be live together as I'm recording that. I think it will help me, one, stay focused on the content, and two, I can be in the text chat with you, more accessible, more focused on what is going on in the text chat, because it's really a challenge for me to do that while I'm channeling and watching the chatting going on at the same time. So I know that's what I originally wanted to do, and I kind of switched it up, but anyway, whatever. So we're going to do a Book Nook there. That's for members of the Bringers of the Light tier. And then we're also going to have a tarot and tea time, something there where we'll also be doing YouTube premiere. What happens with these premieres too is I can be in the text chat at other times that are more accessible to you guys as well. So we can maybe have some morning or afternoon on one, and maybe like an early evening on another one, which makes that more available to folks that, you know, have like some sort of 9 to 5 going on or something, and aren't maybe sitting around like me. You know, I've got stuff going on throughout the day too, but I think in this way, it's more accessible to all of us. And then same thing in the Inner Sanctum, we do, it's going to be more, I want to have it be more like a Bringers of the Light Academy, where there's like almost like a wizard training kind of a thing. It's really, the content's not going to change. I just want to more clearly define like what we're doing in there. So we will have twice monthly like video studies or video topics, and those will also be YouTube premieres where we can text chat as I'm presenting the material. It could be a healing, it could be there is a prosperity healing one that I'm going to be doing. I have to redo it because I did the live stream and it got deleted. So the material is gone. So if I set these as YouTube premieres, I can actually make sure the videos get uploaded and the teachings get uploaded, and we're not redoing it. And so we will have that as well. So I know that's a lot if you're not interested in the Patreon, but there's something for everyone in there. If you want to have another play date with me, then that is definitely going to be the place to do it. And then, as always, we always have the almost dailies on my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. So there we go. That's that. And I have not announced that in our Patreon. So I know if you're in the Patreon with me, this is kind of the first time you're hearing it. And I'm going to put this announcement of all these little updates that I just talked about for Patreon in our Patreon, probably on Monday, which is tomorrow. All right, so let us get down to our storytelling for the month. And I'm going to pull that up here. So this started out with a little art piece that I drew, I don't know when, like a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to use that as part of the thumbnail. But we've got some new Bringers of the Light coming in. A new couple. You know, I've always got my partnerships going on here. Most of our Bringers of the Light do not work as solo practitioners. We do need. Why does it seem like the the dark agenda people do work as solo practitioners, and the bringers of light people are always coupled up somehow. And they don't always start out as couples. They start out as like getting assigned to each other somehow. And then over time, some of them do end up like realizing like, oh, this is something more. And, embarking on more of like a partnership together, like a romantic partnership. So this morning I was outside with the dog, and in the background you will hear like Halloween ambience stuff going on. It's a very gray, foggy day here, and spring is like spring is my second favorite season to autumn. And on the other side of the world, I know we have listeners on the other side of the world where it wasn't Imbolc, it was Llamas and Lunasa. And so for you, it's beginning to be that feeling where you want to start putting out all your fall, all your fall decorations, and you want to start thinking about Samhain and Halloween. And so I really tend to pick up on that, since that's my favorite season, that I know that on the other side of the world it's happening too. And so sometimes in this February, March-ish time frame, I go into this like putting back on this, Samhain stuff, and I don't necessarily put out like Halloween decorations, but I want to like watch scary movies, and I put the Halloween ambience on a little bit and get into some of the more spooky stuff. And it was really funny too, because over the past couple of weeks, a lot of the books I wanted to listen to on audiobook that were Halloween or scary in nature had, like a jillion people on the waiting list at the Libby library, because everybody was listening to them back in September, October of last year. And so now nobody up here wants to listen to the scary stuff, right? So suddenly all the scary books the audiobooks are becoming available, and I keep getting like, your hold for My Roommate is a Vampire is ready. Your hold for the one that just came up is Slewfoot by Brom. And I started looking at the context of that book again, and back when I put it on hold back a while back, I was like, this book seems just a tiny bit out of my comfort zone. Do I go with it or not? Just like that Bram Stoker book was, the Dracul book was just a tiny bit, like just a little bit over the top. And I was like, oh, Slewfoot, do I want to read you? And so I actually accepted the hold, and checked out the audiobook on Libby, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to the first chapter, and if it feels too, because it's about 1666 and the Puritans, and I'm like, oh, it's another, what was the one about the Practical Magic prequel? I'm like, oh, is it another Practical Magic prequel? Maybe not. When I heard the sample of the audiobook, I was like, oh, he sounds so scary, Slewfoot, the creature. And so I told myself I'll listen to the first chapter, and if it feels like I'm going to do it, I will, and if not, if it just feels too much, I'm going to pass and return it. I have to be very careful now. This is another thing for you guys. You have to be, I don't know, I've noticed, if you're a sensitive soul, even songs and things I used to like really love back in the day, I have to be very careful now, because lyrics loop in your head, right? Lyrics can loop. Like I wake up and I'm always hearing music. And so some of the songs I really liked, especially like some of the metal songs and stuff, I go back and I'm like, man, I really like this song. But then when I check into the lyrics, and let me check into these lyrics, I'm like, oh, this does not have good lyrics at all. It's talking about, people being angry all the time, or suicide, or this, that, and the other. And you don't always catch that. And so I'm like, oh man, I guess I can't listen to that song anymore, because it's got like lower vibration. So I have to look out with these books too, and just see where we're at. All right, so we are 14 minutes in and I haven't even read this story. That's about par for me, right? All right, so I hope you all are having a beautiful, magical time whenever you are catching us, because we have more and more people tuning into the Bringers of the Light Sundays now. And this is more just like a casual, get some of the housekeeping out there, get some of the monthly themes out there, check in with everybody and see how you're doing. And, just, I don't know, just kind of see what I'm doing, which is sitting up in the studio, looking out the window at the gray fogginess, looking at the Halloween ambience, looking at the dog sleep under the comforter, I already finished my hot chocolate, I have an enchanted hot chocolate. Thinking about, my wishes and dreams and goals. And today, usually I like Sunday to be like a kind of a quiet day. So I might do a shamanic journey later on and just check in with my guides and see if there's anything I'm missing, because I just feel like I'm constantly busy throughout the day with something. And even if I am tuned in, tapped in, and turned on, I sometimes miss things that because my mind is thinking about, okay, what's the next thing I need to do, and the next thing. And so if I don't set aside, and if you don't set aside dedicated time to listen to your own inner guidance system, be that your higher self, your guides, angels, source, whoever, then sometimes these things get missed. The nice thing I've noticed, though, as I've decided to do more of the Taoist approach and just kind of flow through my day, is divine intervention will come along and help me out if I need it. And I think that's why these YouTube streams were getting deleted or got deleted, is because Spirit is like, you don't really want to do a live stream. So think about how this little story, and then I'll do the actual storytelling, the channeled storytelling. You don't want to really do a live stream, do you? And I'm like, my guides are like, why are you doing a live stream? And I'm like, I don't know, because people do live streams and it's fun to have everybody on at the same time and chatting and this, that, and the other. And then my higher self is like, but that's hard for you to manage, right? Because it's hard for me to manage the comments and channel and present material at the same time. So that would be like, and I was a corporate trainer in the corporate world for, gosh, how long was I in the training department? I don't even know. Like, it's past life stuff too, right? I was just presenting Hierophant energy. But it would be like me being in the classroom trying to present material while the whole class was talking at the same time. It was just like, we used to have those people that were like, this material is boring. Because it was presenting, I remember in corporate training, it was presenting like very stale, dry, boring topics. And, so some people would just start talking, off on the side or whatever. It was very distracting. And so I would have to pull them aside, like, okay, I need your help. I know this is fun. But so then we even decided, all the trainers in the training department, we even decided like, oh my God, this material, we've got to jazz it up somehow. And we created a presentation for our managers, because we wanted to go to a symposium for creative training techniques. And I remember that, I don't know why this is giving me chills, but I remember our little presentation was so good, and they let quite a few of us go to this creative training techniques conference. I think it was in Minnesota. So why did we want to go to Minnesota? Who knows? Why would we even want to go? But somehow, yeah, we went to Minnesota, and learned some really fun stuff about how to creatively present material, which is why I also don't want my Patreon to be so dry and boring. I want it to be more interactive and fun. And so I'm looking for ways to more creatively and more funnily, I know that's not a word, funnily present stuff to you guys. And these to me are not dry, boring topics. I mean, this is our spiritual growth and stuff we're talking about. To me, that's very important. That's one of my highest priorities in life, right? Because of spiritual growth. But to do it in a fun way that doesn't have to seem so daunting and serious for our people that are either advanced practitioners that are like, oh my gosh, this is the same old, or people that are new that are like, oh my God, this is it. This is daunting and I don't even know where to start. So that's where we're going with that. So if you're in the Patreon, or if you have been on the fence about joining it, just know my goal is to also keep it jazzy and fun and child's play and all of that you hear here. But I feel like sometimes in there, because it's more of a private group, that I maybe even a little bit more wow, a little bit more so than I am here. All right. So let's get into this storytelling of the month. This is called Aloha Mountain Ranch. And we have two new bringers of the light, Artemis and Skyvana. Don't they sound so totally different from each other? So here's character building, right? So who is Artemis and who is Skyvana? So we're setting a little bit of a foundation here. as we tease out these two new bringers of the light, like who are they? They seem different. And when I think of Artemis, for some strange reason, isn't he? I bring in a lot of vampire energy. Do I bring it in? No, I like vamp energy around me. So we have the mist vamp, and I have another shamanic vamp that's part of my spirit guide collection of spirit guide companions from my spirit guide auctions that I used to attend way back when in the day. And so vamp energy is kind of alluring to me. And vampires in like spooky stories are some of my favorite characters. But wasn't Artemis, maybe you have to be like maybe I'm really dating myself, but wasn't there a vampire? Was Artemis that one from Dark Shadows or whatever? The show Dark Shadows. And I know Johnny Depp did a remake of that. I want to watch it. But anyway, so this guy's name is Artemis. All my books are free to read. The ebooks of my books are free to read. I put my Smashwords publisher -- whatever it's called, draft to digital ebook publisher link in the show notes. Every link I talk about, Patreon and all that other stuff, my TikToks and IG, is all in my show notes. Google Books, Apple Books, Barnes and Nobles. You can download all these things for free. This is all channeled, what I call channeled material. I just do it via automatic writing. And so this morning what happened is I was out with the dog. It was misty and foggy. We were tromping around. Luckily, thank you, weather spirits. I've been working a lot with my weather spirits. Thankfully, there's hardly any snow and any ice on the ground because we've had like 40s and 50s degrees and most of it's melted away. But so we were like out in the mud and I could smell the earth, and I just had this feeling of like, I personally want these legacy lands where I can make like a little family plot, like a little family cemetery. And then Artemis and Skyvana came in to my consciousness, and I was like, who are they and what are they doing? And this place, this Aloha Mountain Ranch came in, and I'm like, where is this? Is this, I know it doesn't always have to be a real, quote unquote, real place, but I'm like, where does it live? Is it in Hawaii? Is it in Maui? Because there's a lot of ranches and stuff there. And I'm like, I'm still not sure I know yet. But let's read. So then I came in and I channeled via automatic writing. I just sat and I'm like, I want to work with Artemis and Skyvana more. It feels really, the story plot line sounds exciting for the storytelling. And so I just sat down and brought in my guides into sacred space and brought in these spirit friends. And we just automatic writing, like channeled out and typed up this chapter, this little story. So without further ado. So your assignment here is just either one, you can listen for fun. It's just a fun storytelling that gives you like, I want it to give you like the vibes of the month that we're in, like Reiki stories or whatever. Like I infuse into it the emotions and the vibes of the month that we're in. And then it's up to you and your spirit and your soul to kind of like feel, and your psychic senses to kind of like feel whatever vibes pertain to you from this story. And what does it bring out? What emotions and feelings does it bring out in you? What metaphors might be there? And I'm not really going to tease out the metaphors here on this one. I'm just going to tell the story and let it stand there and let you sit with it for the month ahead. Aloha Mountain Ranch. It was incredibly windy and overcast on this early February morning. Skyvana got her favorite mug from the cupboard and made herself an enchanted hot chocolate. 1 spoon for magic and 2 for inspiration. While she was whisking away and adding marshmallows, Artemis was outside looking at the cottage garden. He could feel the roots of all his efforts in the garden ready to spring forth. At that moment, he was also being watched as his very keen senses heard a twig crack in the liminal space that was the hedgerow separating Aloha Ranch from the woods and the mountain beyond. Wolves again, he thought, visualizing the pack as it ran through the underbrush. The elder wolf, whom Artemis had named the General, sent him a brief mental image of an injury. His right paw badly cut from a fall in the icy spring just beyond the fence line. Artemis felt the injury as his hand ached, but it didn't feel life-threatening, only painful and slowing him down a bit. Skyvana took her mug and joined Artemis outside. Your wolf again? She felt its presence too, and she pulled Artemis close for a hug. They didn't need extra words between them. Who were they? What were they doing here at this ranch? Artemis had been a very busy person in his what seemed like a former life. He'd gotten the call from his guides a long time ago now, it seemed to him, and had embarked on a more spiritual life, using the massive earnings he had made in that life to invest and save. He'd now made even more and had used a small bit of it to buy the old lands. At the same time, he'd acquired Skyvana in what he felt was a lucky break, but which we all know was the finger of God doing its magic like it always does. Skyvana was a woman of many mysteries, least of all the one where she felt she'd somehow crafted Artemis herself out of so many wishes and dreams for quote-unquote her person, the one who actually got her and all her funny quirks and magic. They walked together now, hand in hand, and decided to pay a visit to the space they'd found shortly after moving to these lands that were gifted to them actually by Bringers of the Light headquarters. A place where the two could stake a magical claim, lay down roots, create a legacy, and heal the land there. This will be the family cemetery, Skyvana said, as a little spooky vibe shivered through her. I mean, February is not Samhain season in their part of the world, but on the other side of the planet it was, and Skyvana could feel the seasons of her planet, be it above or below the equator. Shall I drink your blood now? Artemis whispered into her ear, as they always fancied themselves playing some sort of game, sometimes pirates, and others a vampire and his ghoulish bride, creatures of the night. The air heavy with fog now, as the weather changed with their emotions and the astral energies that surrounded them. If the spirits of the land emoted happiness, then sunny skies prevailed. If uncertainty, then a foggy mist blew in, and so on. I want the pet cemetery here, Skyvana said, feeling that under the nice old oak with the cheerful dryad inside would be a pleasant place for their ghost pets to play. Yes, that feels good to me too, Artemis said, reaching down to pick up the soil there and deeply inhale its earthiness. We'll get Emmanuel to help dig this area out a little bit tomorrow, he said. Emmanuel and Mrs. Garcia Fuentes, otherwise known as Magdalena, had been together for almost 20 years now. When Skyvana hired Magdalena as the caretaker of the house, she also acquired Emmanuel by default, and so she had a full-time live-in couple to help with managing the house and the grounds. How perfect, Skyvana thought. It was something she had always wanted, but had never really realized she had, like the parents she had always wanted, someone to watch over her and the lands. Artemis planted a kiss on her cheek and slid his hand up her spine. Skyvana shivered and growled a little. The hair on Artemis's neck stood up. Or shall I suck your blood? He placed his mouth at the back of her neck. Your wolf, she said, feeling into him more easily when he was relaxed and playful like this, needs a healing. Yes, Artemis said. A rain check on that blood-sucking then? He toyed with her hair. You know it, she purred coyly. So that is that. That is our February storytelling. And I think what I'm going to do there is in the Book Nook on Procreate. No, not on Procreate. In the Book Nook on, what is that other one? Patreon. I'm going to suss out a little bit all the metaphors I feel are in there for the month ahead and how you can take advantage of them. And maybe we'll do a little sort of we'll bring in Skyvana and Artemis for a little Book Nook play date and character deep dive. And we'll do that. We'll do that here soon. All right, let me just see if there's anything else that I want to play with. Okay, I think that is all I have for us for the storytelling. And the next thing we're going to be doing here on the show is, because it is the month of romance, and I'll always watch over you as a metaphor for, soulmates and divine partnerships and all that. The next thing I'm going to be doing is called Fairy Tales. It's going to be a romance pick a card, kind of something having to do with that, with an extended reading that we will be doing over on the Patreon Bringers of the Light here. So without further ado, I want to thank you all so much for joining me here, and we will see you all again soon. Take care.